Lewis Hamilton is once again the center of attention ahead of the 2026 Formula One weekend at Zandvoort. But this time, it's not because of a victory, nor is it because of the announcement of a major upgrade from Ferrari. Instead, data from a practice session that has begun circulating within the paddock is said to have Ferrari engineers paying extra attention. Hamilton's telemetry reveals something very interesting. Even though Ferrari arrived without the new floor mats that had been widely expected in recent weeks. On paper, Ferrari should be in a fairly difficult position. Zandvoort is a circuit that demands a car's stability, quick changes of direction, balance in medium to high-speed corners, and the ability to maintain optimal tire temperature. These characteristics can quickly reveal a car's weaknesses. If the front is too aggressive, the car will lose stability. If the rear is too weak, the driver won't dare to return to the accelerator early. But this is precisely where Hamilton's data begins to attract attention. There's no new floor mat. No major aerodynamic package that's immediately visually different. There's no revolution in the Ferrari's bodywork. But in the practice lap data, Hamilton's handling of several sectors at Zandvoort revealed a change that prompted Ferrari's technical team to take a closer look. The question now is enormous. What exactly has Ferrari discovered? And why, without a new floor, is Hamilton able to signal such a different response than before? To understand this story, we must look beyond lap times. Because in modern Formula One, the stopwatch is certainly important, but telemetry often tells a much bigger story. Hamilton is known as a driver who is very sensitive to car balance. When the rear end doesn't give him confidence, he immediately changes how he approaches a corner. When the car has problems during the braking phase, he changes the way he releases the brake pedal. And when the front end of the car starts to respond better, it's usually evident in how he carries minimum speed mid-corner. This is what Ferrari is primarily concerned about at Zandvoort. In several parts of the practice session, Hamilton's driving pattern reportedly showed a greater level of confidence on corner entry. The Ferrari car doesn't appear to have undergone any major visual changes, but the way Hamilton attacks some corners suggests something is working more effectively than the previous configuration. And most interestingly, all of this happened without a new floor. For some time, talk about Ferrari's development has centered around the possibility of a new floor. In the era of ground effects, the floor is one of the most crucial elements in generating downforce. Small changes to the undercarriage design can alter the car's entire character, from stability to tire performance. Therefore, when Ferrari arrived without a completely new floor, many expected the Zandvoort weekend to be a more straightforward affair. An evaluation, perhaps a few setup adjustments, but nothing major. But Hamilton's practice data is starting to change that perception. It seems Ferrari doesn't need a dramatic visual change to start looking for additional performance. In Formula One, improvements don't always come from major new components. Sometimes, the biggest changes come from a better understanding of the existing car. And that's what makes telemetry so important. If a driver can brake slightly later but still maintain stability, it means there's been an improvement in one area. If a driver can achieve a higher minimum speed without losing the rear, it means the car's balance is starting to improve. If the accelerator can be applied earlier on corner exit, that advantage can carry over to the following straight. Zandvoort is the perfect place to see such changes. This circuit isn't just about engine power. Many sections of the track require courage, precision, and complete trust in the car. Fast corners force drivers to trust the front of the car, while elevation changes and high-banked corners can put very different loads on the tires. Hamilton seems to be finding a way to better exploit the Ferrari's character. And if so, this could be very important news for the Maranello team. Over the course of the season, one of the biggest challenges in car development isn't just creating as much downforce as possible. The real problem is. The key is to create downforce that the driver can consistently use. A car with high downforce figures in the wind tunnel isn't necessarily easy to drive on the track. If a driver lacks confidence, that potential will never be fully exploited. This is where Ferrari seems to be onto something. Hamilton doesn't need a car that's just fast on a single lap. He needs a car that can respond predictably. When braking, he needs to know what the rear end will do. When entering a corner, the front end must respond appropriately. And when opening the throttle, the car shouldn't suddenly lose traction. Telemetry from practice sessions is crucial because Ferrari can compare this data with previous data. They can see the throttle position. They can see the brake pressure. They can see the steering angle. They can see the minimum speed. And most importantly, they can see if Hamilton is using the car more aggressively. If Hamilton starts shortening the braking phase and carrying more speed to the apex, that's a positive sign. If he can open the throttle earlier without making major steering corrections, Ferrari will see rear-end stability begin to improve. And if all of this happens without a new floor, then Ferrari's development focus could shift significantly. Perhaps their biggest problem isn't just a lack of components. Perhaps the problem is how they understand and utilize the existing package. This is why practice sessions at Zandvoort can be far more important than they appear from the outside. To fans, a practice session might simply look like cars circling around trying to find a setup. But behind the garage, thousands of parameters are being analyzed. Each lap Hamilton laps is compared to the previous one. Every setup change provides new information. Changes in tire pressure, braking distribution, car height, and even differential characteristics can affect the Ferrari's overall behavior. And Ferrari seems to be building an increasingly clear picture. One of the most interesting aspects is the possibility that Hamilton is starting to provide feedback that allows engineers to narrow down the setup direction. When a team doesn't understand the car's main problem, they can try too many solutions at once. But when a pattern of problems begins to emerge, development becomes more focused. That's why the Zandvoort data can be so valuable. Ferrari may have arrived without a new floor, but that doesn't mean they're coming without a weapon. Their weapon this time could be understanding. And in Formula One, the right understanding is sometimes more valuable than a major upgrade package. Imagine a car that has the potential to gain an extra tenth of a second per sector, but the driver never gets to use it because the balance is too unpredictable. If the team then finds a configuration that gives the driver more confidence, lap time gains could emerge without the need for any major changes to the car. Hamilton may be at that point. But the story is even more interesting because Zandvoort is also a very different test than a circuit with long straights. Ferrari can't just rely on power. They have to find a rhythm. They have to look after the tires. They have to ensure the car remains stable under rapid changes of direction. Any weaknesses will be immediately apparent. And if Hamilton can show a more consistent pattern in the telemetry, Ferrari will certainly take very serious notice. It's possible the team has discovered something in the way the car performs under certain conditions. Perhaps it's related to the distribution of aerodynamic balance. Perhaps it's related to ride height. It could also stem from the way the existing suspension and floor work together to keep the car's platform stable. In a modern Formula One car, all of these elements are interconnected. Changing one parameter can affect many other areas. That's why Ferrari can't just bring in a new floor. A new floor requires precise correlation. If simulator data, CFD data, wind tunnel data, and track conditions don't match, an upgrade could create new problems. Ferrari certainly doesn't want to sacrifice a race weekend just to test a component they don't fully understand. Therefore, the decision not to bring in a new floor could have a deeper meaning. Ferrari may want to maximize the existing package first. And Hamilton's data could be part of that process. If telemetry shows that the main problem can be mitigated through setup and configuration changes, Ferrari will have a stronger foundation before introducing the upgrade. The next race. This is also crucial in the internal battle between the two Ferrari drivers. Hamilton and his teammate may have different driving styles. What works for one driver may not be ideal for another. But when one driver finds a new way to exploit the car, the entire team gains invaluable information. Data never lies. If Hamilton can show better pace in certain conditions, the engineers can break down the entire lap and figure out where that advantage comes from. Is he slower on corner entry but faster on exit? Is he braking deeper? Is the car more stable mid-corner? Or is there a small setup change that allows the tires to run at a more ideal temperature? All of these questions can be answered through telemetry. And that's why Hamilton's story at Zandvoort shouldn't be judged solely on his practice standings. A driver can be in a relatively low position, but have very promising data. Conversely, a driver can set a fast lap on new tires, but struggle to maintain consistency in race simulations. Ferrari will certainly be looking at both. Lap speed is important, especially in qualifying. But consistency is a far greater weapon in the race. If Hamilton can preserve his tires while maintaining his rhythm, then Ferrari will have a chance to turn the weekend around. And this is where the pressure on rival teams begins to mount. Ferrari may not come up with major, immediately visible changes. But if they find a way to unlock the car's hidden performance, their competitors will face a more elusive threat. Upgrades can be photographed. New flaws can be compared. New wings can be analyzed. But changes in setup understanding are much harder to read from the outside. Only Ferrari knows exactly what they're seeing on the telemetry screens. And if Hamilton does help find a new direction, Zandvoort could be a pivotal point in Ferrari's journey this season. But of course, none of this means Ferrari has solved all its problems. One practice session won't define a season. Track conditions change. The wind can change. The temperature can change. Tire compounds can respond differently. And Zandvoort itself has the characteristic of drastically changing performance from one session to the next. Therefore, Ferrari must be careful. They must ensure that what they see in the telemetry isn't just a fluke. The data must be repeatable. The pattern must be consistent. Hamilton must be able to reproduce the same car behavior across a variety of conditions. If that advantage persists, then Ferrari can say they've truly found something. And if that happens, the decision not to bring in a new flaw could actually be seen as a very smart one. Why rush into changing components when the existing package still holds potential? That question is probably being seriously debated within the Ferrari garage right now. Hamilton himself is known for his immense experience in car development. After years of working with a variety of Formula One cars, he understands how small changes can have a big impact on confidence. A driver might not always ask for new components. Sometimes, all he needs is a car that responds consistently. And that's what Ferrari seems to be looking for. Zandvoort could be the perfect laboratory for that process. If the car can navigate the fast corners with stability, maintain minimum speed, and provide sufficient traction on corner exit, Ferrari will have a solid foundation for the next circuit. But there's one thing that makes this story even more interesting. If Hamilton is indeed more comfortable with the latest configuration without the new flaw, Ferrari may have to rethink their development sequence. The next upgrade shouldn't eliminate the positive characteristics that have just been discovered. This is a big risk in Formula One. Teams can bring in upgrades to increase downforce, but those changes actually make the car more difficult to drive. Simulation numbers might look good, but the driver loses confidence. Therefore, Ferrari must ensure that every next step is built on real data. Hamilton could be a crucial part of that process. And if Zandvoort does indeed produce positive signals, we may be seeing the beginning of a change in Ferrari's approach. It's no longer just about chasing new components. It's not just about bringing in a new flaw to chase headlines. It's about understanding. We'll take a deep dive into how the entire car package works. There's no new flaw. There's no visual revolution. But Hamilton's telemetry could be Ferrari's biggest surprise. And now all eyes will be on the next session. Will that positive pattern persist? Will Hamilton be able to translate practice data into qualifying speed? And most importantly, has Ferrari really found the solution they've been looking for? The answer will come on the track. Because in Formula One, there's no hiding performance forever. If Ferrari has truly found something, the stopwatch will eventually tell. And if Hamilton can maintain the same confidence seen in the practice telemetry patterns, Zandvoort could turn out to be one of Ferrari's most important weekends. Not because of a new flaw. Not because of a major upgrade. But because of a piece of data. Data that might only be seen by a few people in the garage. Data that could change the direction of the setup. Data that could determine the direction of development. And perhaps the data will finally make Ferrari realize that the speed they've been searching for is already inside the car. They just haven't found a way to unlock it. Now, Lewis Hamilton seems to be giving them a clue. Zandvoort isn't over yet. The practice sessions are just the beginning. But if this telemetry continues to show the same pattern, Ferrari could be entering the next phase with something far more dangerous than just a new flaw. They could have a car they're finally starting to understand. And when a Formula One team truly understands its car, big changes can happen very quickly. So, has Hamilton really just discovered Ferrari's hidden secret at Zandvoort? Was the decision to go without a new flaw the right move? Or will all these surprises only last for practice before the realities of racing change everything again? One thing is for sure, Hamilton's data has given Ferrari something invaluable to analyze. And from here on, every next round will be increasingly important. Because sometimes, the biggest surprises in Formula One don't come from the most obvious new components. Sometimes, it all starts with a small line on the telemetry screen. And that line might just be the beginning of Ferrari's big story at Zandvoort. Lewis Hamilton has finally given Ferrari fans a signal that has rekindled their hopes. After a period filled with pressure, criticism and questions about the direction of Ferrari's car development, there are now indications that the Maranello-based team hasn't given up. New upgrades are being prepared, and Zandvoort is said to be one of the most important tests for Ferrari to prove whether the changes they've made can truly change the course of the season. And this is what makes the situation even more interesting. Ferrari isn't just coming to Zandvoort for a regular race weekend. The Dutch circuit has the potential to become a major laboratory for their latest development package. All the data, all the changes to the car, and especially the responses of Hamilton and his teammates will be under scrutiny. The question now is simple. Has Ferrari finally found the solution they've been searching for? For the past few seasons, Ferrari has faced a major challenge in finding consistency. On one circuit, the car looks competitive, but when switching to a different track, new problems resurface. Sometimes the car has promising single-lap pace, but struggles to maintain performance over a race distance. At other times, balance issues and tire characteristics make the drivers work much harder. For Lewis Hamilton, this situation is certainly crucial. Hamilton didn't just come to Ferrari to be an experienced driver. His arrival carries high expectations. A world champion with immense experience in car development, a driver who understands how a big team works, and someone who knows how crucial every little detail is when a team is trying to catch up with its rivals. That's why, when Hamilton hinted that new upgrades were on the way, attention immediately turned to Ferrari. This isn't just about adding new components. This is about whether Ferrari can take all the problems they've learned from previous races and translate that data into concrete solutions on the car. And Zandvoort could be the first place to answer all those questions. The Zandvoort circuit is no ordinary track. Its layout is tight, fast, has long corners, elevation changes, and requires a car with extremely precise aerodynamic balance. Drivers don't have much room for error. If the front of the car doesn't inspire confidence, time is quickly lost. If the rear is too unstable, drivers can't attack corners aggressively. In other words, Zandvoort will test Ferrari's entire package. If a new upgrade only provides an advantage in one area, but creates a weakness in another, Zandvoort could immediately expose the problem. However, if Ferrari truly succeeds in improving the car's balance, stability, and aerodynamic efficiency, then Hamilton could have a much more competitive weapon. This is why the weekend in the Netherlands could be much more important than it seems. Ferrari has been working tirelessly to understand the characteristics of their car more deeply. Development in modern Formula One is no longer just about gaining as much downforce as possible. Teams must find the perfect balance. They need a car that is fast in fast corners, stable under braking, capable of maintaining tire control, and flexible enough to be competitive on a variety of circuits. A small change to the floor can affect the airflow to the rear. Changes to the bodywork can alter the balance. Modifications to the suspension or setup can help a driver gain greater confidence when attacking curbs and corners. And Ferrari appears to be working to bring all these elements together. Hamilton himself will undoubtedly be a key part of this evaluation process. His experience providing technical feedback can help the team understand whether the changes are truly working as intended. In a sport like Formula One, the numbers on the screen are crucial, but the driver's feelings can also be a big clue. A driver might say the car has more grip, but the next question is, where does that grip come from? Is the car stronger on corner entry? Is the rear end more stable when Hamilton gets back on the accelerator? Is the car more consistent when the tires start to lose performance? Do the changes help in a single qualifying lap, while maintaining pace throughout the race? All of these questions will be part of Ferrari's evaluation at Zandvoort. Danha. Hamilton seems to understand that new upgrades aren't a quick fix that will automatically put Ferrari ahead of all its rivals. In Formula One, even upgrades that seem substantial in theory can yield very small gains on the track. But in an era of intense competition, even a few tenths of a second can dramatically change a position. That's why Ferrari can't just look for big improvements. They need consistent improvements. If the car becomes more manageable, Hamilton can attack closer to the limit. If tire degradation improves, race strategies become more flexible. If aerodynamic efficiency improves, Ferrari might be able to compete better in a wider variety of corners. All these small gains, when combined, can add up to much bigger changes. And Zandvoort will be a very interesting first test. This circuit could also demonstrate Hamilton's confidence in Ferrari's new direction. A driver can have a fast car in theory, but if the car's characteristics don't suit his driving style, it's difficult to maximize that potential. Hamilton is known for needing confidence in the rear of the car when entering and exiting corners. He needs to know exactly how the car will react. When the balance changes unexpectedly, drivers lose the ability to attack at their full potential. Therefore, if Ferrari's upgrades succeed in providing a more stable platform,
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy.